Hi, Bill Jones from Turntastic Wood Designs. Today I made a little contraption that will drag a camera along very slowly for a slow panning shot. So you get a nice smooth slow panning shot. Full disclosure, this is pretty much a copycat of a video that Frank Howarth did. He had a good idea, so I followed the idea. So, but I made what he made, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So if you want to see that, stick around. Next, I printed out a couple of gear templates from Matthias's gear generator, and used spray adhesive to attach that to some 1/2-inch plywood, and then cut out the general circle on a bandsaw. I used a scratch-all to mark the center of both gears, and then also to mark the center between each tooth on both the gears. Using a 5/16" brad point bit, I drilled a hole between each tooth of the gears at the places I marked earlier with the scratch-all. On the bandsaw, I tipped the table to 5 degrees. This will give the teeth of the gears a slight wedge, and it'll make it a little wider at the top than they are at the bottom, and make it a little easier for them to work together. I then put a piece of scrap partway through the bandsaw to act as a zero clearance insert. This will help prevent tear out. Next, I cut the left side of each tooth. To get to 5 degrees, the other side of zero, I just jammed a piece of wood under my zero clearance insert, and it doesn't have to be exactly 5 degrees. So that worked out for me. So I could then cut the right side of each tooth. Now I could take the gears over to the disc sander and sand the ends of the gears down to the line on the template. I drilled the center holes for each gear. And cleaned up their faces on the disc sander. I hacked together this little box that I'm going to use for a gearbox out of 1/2-inch plywood, and it is really a hack, but it's just what I need. So it's a simple box, open on one side, and I've got a hole in each side over here that is a little bit bigger than a 3/8" dowel. So 3/8" dowel will go through there and spin without wobbling too much. And on the back I made a little shelf-like thing that will allow for a motor that I have here, and I have a slot here where the motor is going to mount, so I can move it back and forth and adjust the position of the motor if I need to. And I'll mount a controller for the motor. I got these two things directly from links on Frank Howarth's website, where he showed exactly how to do what I'm doing here. This is a little motor that runs at 3.5 RPM. That's pretty slow. And this is a little electronic controller that actually can slow it down even further. It was pretty easy to hook up. There's a positive and negative wire that come out of there and go to the controller, and it's marked on the controller. Hey, here's where the wires go for the motor. And out of that, I took it runs on 12 volts, so I took an old 12 volt, I've heard these called wall warts. Took an old 12 volt wall wart and hooked that up for power. And I'll plug that in here. And maybe you can hear, but you probably can't see, the shaft is spinning right now. That's at max speed, and you can slow it down with this little doodad there. I mounted the motor on this little shelf in the slot and screwed it down tight. Mounted the controller here on the shelf as well. I took the small gear and put it on the shaft of the motor, and for the large gear I've put it on a piece of dowel, and I've drilled a hole here through the dowel that a string will go through, and that string is going to pull the camera here in a little while. So let's try it out and make sure it works. I get that lined up in there. All right, and we plug it in. And the motor runs the gear, which turns the shaft, which is what we want. And the controller, that's the fastest it goes right there. Can slow down. All right, now it's on to build the track that pulls the motor. Uh-oh. I might have to adjust it a little bit. I picked up a set of roller skates at my local Goodwill for $1.50. Then I ripped the shoes off the roller skates. I screwed the wheel assemblies to a piece of plywood, and I built up some blocks on top of that plywood. I got a cheap tripod, and I cut the head off the tripod with a hacksaw, because who doesn't like cutting the heads of things off with a hacksaw? Then I epoxied that to the blocks that I had put on top of the plywood. For a track, I cut a simple rabbet joint on each side of a 2x6. And here's the whole assembly ready for a test run. Hey, it works! This is filmed at 24 times speed. Well, I'm real pleased with the way things came out. The thing worked. Had to tweak it a little and learned a great deal along the way, and that was the biggest thing for me. I learned a lot on this one. It was a lot of fun to do. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, please like and share with your friends. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And as always, thanks for watching.